In the story of a lot of people dwells the beautiful solution to a lot of problems that other people are facing. Hello, my name is Iyanoluwa Shomide Elizabeth, also known as Wanda, and this is the Voice of Comfort. This platform aims to bring out the voices of people that have been there or are there, that are experiencing these things, that know how it feels, what it feels like in it at the moment or as at the time that they were in, are willing to share their stories and let us know, okay, this is how I got out of it. This is what it felt like. You're not in it alone. It's time for us to hear the real stories. It's time for those voices to come out. That's what Voice of Comfort is all about.
Hello. I'm excited. I'm here again. I don't know what time of the day it is over there, but welcome. Thank you for joining me. Um, I'm excited today. Unlike the last time, I have Bolu here with me. Thank you, Bolu, for being here. And then one very awesome person. One very awesome person. He's going to be on the podcast later, but he has been a not a support system that like support system, but they are behind the scene. But that's not even where the focus of today's podcast is. I have a story for you. So, crossover night, before the service, I walked into church and then I saw a face. Like, when you have like this deja vu moment, because you're like, I was just thinking about you. Literally, I just typed your name on my phone. Okay, that was a day before. And then boom, I look to my side and I see you there looking so gorgeous as always. And I'm like, yeah, you're here. So she was there. And that was Feign. Hello, Feign.
Hi, Wanda.
Hi. I'm so excited. That day, let me continue the story, please. So, on that very day, for the first time, this lady, the only time I'd ever like interfaced with her was whenever you come into the office to speak with Pimo, or one time when you did a very awesome video to invite people to, like it was like, you were so she was just so good. When you can say that someone is a speaker, like it came so naturally, and I was like, wow, who is this? And people was like, oh, it's this lady. Do you know she speaks French? She speaks English. She does something with lingua something people. She coaches teacher, like she's a teacher of teachers. And guess what I even found out that day? She has a book club that I joined. Glory, hallelujah. And guess the name of the book club? Lazy Readers. Lazy Readers. And it's so good that I'm an audiobook person, but she challenged me. I was like, no, we are lazy readers. We understand that. She low-key told me that she understands that the reason why I listen to audiobook is because I'm too lazy to to work with the physical book. And then I got on the club, and then we started, and now we're studying together. So I know that I didn't go through your introduction properly. So aside from the book club that you have, the Lazy Book Club, Lazy Book Club, Lazy Readers Book
Lazy
Club.
Readers Book Club.
Yeah. I know you also teach French.
Yes. I'm the director of Linguatopia.
Linguatopia.
Yes. And we provide language services to individuals and organizations that want to bridge the language gap.
Oh, very interesting. Very interesting. Thank you very much. I'm learning French on Duolingo. I realized that that's not French. I'm sorry, this is not to talk down on Duolingo. I know that when I see French written, I can read and understand what they are saying. But the spoken French,
Yes.
a French guy was around one time and he was speaking French. I was like, sorry, please, what are you saying? What language is that? He said French. I was like, like I would have busted that on Duolingo. I've got it to a particular level that makes me. But no, I realized that I didn't know. Yes. I didn't know it.
Duolingo is a good support tool for anyone who's learning French, but you can't really learn everything on Duolingo. So
yeah, how did Duolingo? Shout out! Thank you for helping me. Like free without stress on your phone. Just it's like a game. So interesting, so cool. How did you get into language? I want to say linguistic,
So I've always liked languages, and I started learning French from the age of 9. So
Oh
I'd
wow.
already had that exposure to the language. I had a fantastic primary school teacher, which is probably not what everybody else that I hear of had, but I had a wonderful teacher in primary school, and she just made me love the language. It was just so nice.
Oh
And I
wow.
just thought, oh, I want to be like you when I grow up.
Yeah, no, you're a teacher of teachers.
Yes,
Like,
I am.
she bettered the career path. Tum, tum, tum. That's amazing. I think that highlights the power of the people we have around us. If only people know that they're that powerful. Like whatever you do can influence the life of the other person
Absolutely.
completely. Like that was 9 years
Absolutely.
old,
Yeah.
and wow,
Yeah.
so good. Lord, please. The prayer is help me to be that influential. I think it seems like I'm joking, but I think it's very serious. The ability to see people beyond what they are. I mean, who would have thought that a 9-year-old child would see a teacher and just say you are just so good and I want to be like you. It's so good.
Absolutely.
So good. So
Yeah.
good. So lovely.
Yeah.
All right. So okay, let me leave that so good, so good, so good, so good, so good thing. So yeah, aside from French and knowing that she has a book club and then she's into Francais things, one other thing that I found that day before the crossover service began was that she's a very mindful person. Like very mindful. The conversation started randomly from, "Hi, how you doing? It's been a while. I've not seen you. What have you been up to?" Boom. Then the therapist started learning what it means to be mindful. Like I really learned a lot. Like, okay, so I'm not the only learner. And we bring the learnings to the world. What is mindfulness in itself to you? What is it really all about?
Mindfulness is being aware of yourself, being aware of the people around you and your environment and how it affects the way that you think. And so mindfulness is more of an art
Okay.
than just a science, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So therefore, it's a deliberate action that you take daily in order to help you process your thoughts and your acts, so that at the end you can find out that you've been a lot more productive than you probably would have been if you did not set out to be very mindful.
Intentional.
Exactly.
Okay.
Throughout the day.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I remember I literally remember what you were just saying before we started when you talked about orderliness. Yeah. And it immediately reminded me of Jordan Peterson's theory. One of his theory is start with arranging your room.
Yes.
Right?
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah.
Sometimes you walk into your room and then your bed is in disarray. Maybe you've got a book there and then the sheets are just, scattered. It just does something to your mind. But when your bed is laid, you just want to lie down on it.
See, the
So the
example
way you make your bed
Bed.
is the way you're going to lie on it.
the example you just gave shows me that you're a very organized person because your definition of disarray is an open book and a bed that is not laid. But I mean, like, you didn't talk about Platon. You didn't talk about a bottle of water that is left open
Oh, dear.
somewhere, or maybe a line of snacks that you just ate and you left on the table, or your shoes here and your clothes there, or your laundry basket pouring out. I
Yeah.
mean, I've seen disarray,
There.
and it's like hearing you now. I know that you don't know.
I think I've seen a bit of that. So,
And I think personally for myself, I didn't realize this until one of the kids I was working with mentioned it. It was like, when I know that you're ready to study and get some things done, even before you sleep, if I've not heard you sweep your room before you sleep, I know that you're not ready to sweep. I mean, to sleep. I was like, okay. And I just like, all right, okay. I just took note of it. And then another time was like, he entered my room, and I wasn't feeling well that period. He entered my room and was like, oh my God, is everything okay? I said, what happened? He said, see now, this is here, this is here, this is here. This is not you. Something is wrong.
Yeah.
And I was like, and at that moment, it just dawned on me because I've heard it in passing. As at then, I've not read Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules of Life book, but I've heard it in passing that you can literally tell the mental state of a person, like you can tell the countenance of a person's mind by seeing their immediate environment. Like, if you're comfortable in chaos, then we can literally just say, okay, your mind is a battlefield.
Absolutely.
Your mind
True.
is a battlefield.
It's true.
Yeah. And looking at it from their perspective, what would we say about people like that? Are they living less of? Because speaking now, I'm thinking of the kind of people that I see that seem to be very comfortable in chaotic environments. And I can almost immediately tag them as the kind that, please, this is not a proven theory. Just see it as a, what do they call these things? The word is failing me. Something you write in research. Don't worry, English. And but the idea of how,
Hypothesis?
yeah, God bless you. Madam Linguistics, thank you. But the idea of how you can, like, understanding, seeing people in consistent chaotic environment can almost literally give you the assumption that this is someone that might be having ADHD. It's big, right? But like, you can literally sense the hyperactivity because that's what would make you drop things here, drop things there. You're not attentive enough. That's why you can have, even from the look of their book, you see some pages bent,
Yes,
and
I
you're like,
cannot stand
no,
that.
if you're attentive enough, you would. Do you understand? Your attention is not at its peak. You're hyperactive. That's what makes those tiny details fall off your notice.
Yes.
It has not been proven. I don't know. Maybe a researcher somewhere might have done that, but it's just an hypothesis from the top of my head, right? What do you think about that kind of life? You talked about your children. What do you think about it? And children generally. You work with teachers and
Yes. So here's the thing. I'm not saying that there are not moments where your environment is not as tidy as you would want it to be. Because, of course, there are some days where you're just too tired and you really couldn't be bothered. But when it becomes a daily practice and, yes, consistent, then in my opinion, I think that there is a challenge because the mind is not meant to be cluttered. The mind is the very place that you want to have a free flow of thought and process because it helps you to connect the dots, if you will, for anything that you want to do. And so I can understand when you have teenagers. We all were teenagers at one point, and you just really couldn't be bothered. But here's the thing. When I was growing up, somehow I was the only one in the house that had her own room. So I have two sisters. And we just had an empty room. And my mother had told my older sister, okay, so that would be your room, and then your two younger sisters can stay in the other room. And my sister said, oh, I don't like the color of the wall. It was brown. And I was like, I'll take it. I don't care. I don't want to be with these two. And so that's how... Sorry, I'm the middle child.
Okay,
and so I ended up having my own room. And I just absolutely loved being in my room. It was just the way that I wanted it. Not a lot of stuff, very small, just a bed, bedside table with a mirror and the stool. It was just lovely like that. And so I think even from that age, I had already started practicing keeping my immediate environment as tidy
Tidy.
as I wanted it to be.
Okay.
And so, of course, when you've grown up that way, then you actually see the benefits. You actually sleep better, you think better, you breathe better, I think, you know. And so, yeah, that's just what I really think about that. Now, studies have also shown that as you get older, you seem to forget things. So
Yeah.
I could literally drop something somewhere, or I'm on the way to the kitchen to drop, say, a plate,
Okay.
and then I drop it on the dining table.
Okay.
And then I remember, oh shoot, I was supposed to do something in the bedroom. And then I leave it there and I go back to my bedroom, you know. And so I always like to have things where I will find them. And so I think that's an issue as well, even in my house. Like, oh, but I kept this here. Why did you? Oh, I didn't know you wanted to use this. And I'm like, just leave it where, or you know where we keep the keys when we come. It's always on the top shelf. So just keep it on the top shelf. So I think, of course, my children already know that this is the way that mommy likes things. So let's just follow her lead so that there can be peace in the house. But you know, I understand. I understand. They're teenagers,
Yeah,
so yeah,
yeah.
just cut them some slack sometimes. Yeah.
And even for those that are adults, I realized that for people that are able to practice mindfulness properly, regardless of how they are generally, like they could decide that my space is going to be chaotic 28 days out of the 30 days in a month. And then the 2 days where I want to be organized, I might not organize the entire room, or where I want to be productive in a particular sense. I might not organize the entire space, but the space in which I want to like focus my mind, it might just even be just their laptop, right? You might not even need to arrange the entire room, but my laptop, I'm just going to sit down here
Yes.
and arrange a schedule and work according to the schedule and get things done.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think that that's the beauty of mindfulness, being able to harness it's good
Yes.
at the right time and
Absolutely.
make the maximum use of it.
Yes.
Yeah, so good. But you know, when we talk about mindfulness, there's this spooky things that seems to be coming on along with it. It's almost like it is a how would I put it? You know, people think, okay, you can't be mindful except you go off to a space where no one else can find you. And then for religious circles, they would rather call it maybe a retreat. I'm going to
Yes.
have time with God and
Yes.
not call it mindfulness, right? But I think I know that in the original concept of mindfulness and then the original concept of retreating aligns. What do you think?
Yes, I agree with you to a great extent. However, we need to understand what it really means to retreat.
Okay.
To retreat simply means to pull back.
Okay.
So whether you're doing it externally or
Oh,
you're
yeah,
doing it
so true.
internally,
Yeah.
you need to find out what works for you. So for some people, they would rather set out a weekend or 5 days and say, you know what, I'm going to leave Lagos and I'm going to IITA, for example, in Ibadan. Or I'm leaving Nigeria entirely. I need to move to another environment where nobody knows me and then just be quiet. For some people, I'll just go and stay in a hotel and then, do whatever it is that I need to do. But the truth is that not everyone can afford to do any of these things. So what do you do? And this is when we need to learn the art of retreating within yourself. You must be able to find peace in the chaos that's around you. So I could literally be seated in an environment and the inside of me is calm
Yeah.
because I've learned how to focus my mind on a particular thing and just stay there. But you see, it's a practice. It's more or less like meditating. You get up in the morning or late in the evening where it's quiet and you just sit down and you think. One of the things that works for me is going to cafes. I just love going. I literally go around, and everyone who knows me knows that, oh, Feign, where's your workstation today? And I'm like, well, some cafe somewhere. And I would just go in, sit there, order my cup of coffee, and I can literally think. And because I know I'm outside, I have just a number of hours to get whatever it is that I need done. So I'm saying, okay, I'm going to be here for 3 hours and I'm going to stick to it. But you see, if I'm working at home, I know I'm at home. I can, I can decide to do what I want to do at whatever time. But in the end, I find out that I'm not as productive as I would have wanted to be. And so we need to be able to find what works for you. If you say, there's no way I can do it in Lagos, I just have to leave, it means you have to plan.
Yeah.
And that also takes money.
Yeah. Financial, time.
You really cannot, sometimes you really can't tell if you're able to save up because there's just so much going on. All of a sudden, something happens in your estate, you don't have light. Then you find yourself buying fuel. Now, that already cuts into your budget for your trip. So are you saying that unless I leave my environment, I can't find peace? Yeah. No, that's not what it's about. You should be able to retreat within yourself and take time out to think and envisage. One of the things that I read recently in the Bible was when Abraham's servant was coming back from getting Rebekah as a wife for Isaac. The Bible states that Isaac was in the field meditating in the evening as he usually did. So it was something that Isaac did every single day. In the evening, he would just go and sit in the field and meditate. And I just thought, wow, this is just so beautiful. And I always picture myself, you know what, I think I need to live somewhere where there's a garden.
Yeah.
And I can just go and sit there and just, but right now, that's not what I have. That's not what I have. I have just my flat where I live with 4 other neighbors. So I must be able to find peace in that environment. Even driving sometimes. Well, hopefully there's no traffic and there's nobody honking their horn. But even those times too, driving are also moments where you can just
and it
meditate.
Is even house chores. It depends on how well you're able to bring yourself together.
Yes.
I realize things like maybe doing the dishes, sweeping. It's just the state of your mind and the decision to be drawn into that space.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Which brings me to this question. I think we might need to discuss a practical breakdown. Like, okay, what is it like? My head isn't, but I'll suspend this for the end.
Okay.
Right. But yeah, we have heard, when you did like this, we did a lot of yoga, and then aside from yoga, we hear people talk about mindfulness, and then the sense of, it's maybe impossible to do these things without external assistance. Like you hear people talk about precious stones, talk about drinks, or maybe a special type of tea that gives you that helps you calm your nerves, and all this sort. Like, are they determining factors to practicing mindfulness? Like, what do you think?
Again, it really depends on the person. For some people, drinking chamomile tea works for them. I'm not a tea person, so it just might not work for me. For some people, doing yoga, if that's what your belief is, then it will probably work for you. But one thing that I've found very helpful is breathing. So I've recently learned that breathing and meditation helps to calm your nerves, and it brings you to that place of togetherness or unity on the inside of you. And so when you take deep breaths, even when you are stressed, say at work, and you just sit, you calm down and you breathe in and then you breathe out. Maybe you do about 3 takes of that. You actually feel better. But we've somehow tied this practice to certain religions, which is not necessarily true. Anybody can do breathing exercises. Even a woman in labor, she's always asked to, take breaths, short breaths, and then you count. It's all coping mechanism for introducing calmness into your system.
Yeah, so good. Yeah. So good. I remember a particular day, I shared this in one of the podcasts, when someone, okay, let me just bring out the story in its fullness to prevent misunderstanding. So I had asked someone to help keep something for me. Like, oh, okay, so you're sharing this stuff. I'm unavailable right now. Can you help me put mine aside and I'll be back? She's like, okay, sure. I'm like, oh, cool. And I came back and I was like, oh, where is it? Like, I'm here now. Where is it? Like, I don't know. I did not keep it. I forgot. Did you tell me to? And the conversation, from what she was always saying, it was almost like, when you're at a point where you just feel like, oh my God, like, what am I hearing? And you can just feel emotion, like, I won't call it anger in itself, but you can sense that something is coming. And at that very moment, someone just held my face from behind. And what I realized at that moment was, it cut the flow. Like, I was immediately unable to get to the peak of that emotion that was coming. You know how you can feel like you're almost getting angry and you just close, you just close my eyes. Like, no.
Yes.
I was like, no, leave me. Am I closing my eyes? No. I'm closing your gates. I'm closing your gates. It was a playful moment, but what that made me realize is that there are certain things that are actually, that I want to say, very simple. I know bringing your mind to the place where you decide that you want to do it is what is difficult. But doing it in itself is like, it's so simple. It's a simple act. The decision is difficult, right?
Yes.
The consciousness, the mindfulness to say, okay, I'm going to drag my mind and close my eyes when I know I'm angry is the hard work. But shutting your eyes when you can sense that your emotion is going off is like a callback. Like, and I realized that the natural conditioning of our humanity is a place of rest. So you get to see workspaces that are like tensed. Like, everybody's like running. Everybody's like, oh, get this, do that. You get to see people that say, oh, they are hustlers. They are like, they go. Do you understand? But would I say that is bad? Not exactly. But are they living at their best flow of productivity? Big no. Because even our humanity, our nature in itself, is unable to properly function in the smoothest flow in that kind of environment. You immediately sense that, okay, you're sweating, your heart is palpitating, you're getting anxious, you are unable to maybe rest without raising your voice. We get to see these things as the tiny representations here and there. And living, people talk about Lagos a lot, so I guess I can say Lagos. An economy like ours, where you literally go out and it's almost like, regardless of how you're trying to control your space and say, okay, you don't want to have an interaction with anything that seems to be up there. Once you step out, there is maybe traffic
Something
there
comes
to
up. Something.
hit you in the face,
There's always
or
something.
there is always something, right? So I, I, I think they're just this, and like you said, sometimes waiting for that moment where we are able to get it at its peak, at its maximum, like um English, at its maximum, at the best arrangement, saying, okay, I want to go off for 1 week, or I want to go spend the weekend, or I want to go off for, might not be. I think that's, it's cool, it's great, it's a good goal for then, right? But I strongly believe that it's the tiny things that count. Like the idea of waiting till you get to that point where you're now like, you've gotten all the money together, like you said, or you finally have that weekend that is free, or you finally decided on that space that is good, right? I think a lot of things get in the way, and a lot of things get tampered with, consciously or unconsciously. Example, I have a very strenuous day at work, and then I'm tensed. I was unable to put myself back together because, truthfully, sometimes we can't really control where we're coming from, right? I was unable to put myself back together. I was unable to take out time to say, okay, I'm going to consciously breathe and control my. I mean, when I said breathe, like, my eyes just closed immediately. Maybe you remember that, like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, there's something about coming back to ourselves that
Yes.
just brings us to this place of rest.
Yes.
Yeah, but then I go home, and then I have my siblings, and consciously, unconsciously, boom, I'm purging, right? A married person goes home, consciously, unconsciously, you've purged on your spouse.
Right.
You go to church, you even try to pray, affects your prayer life. You're like, I'm too tired to pray, I'm not praying. What else do we do? What are the other aspects of our lives? You are on the street, your neighbor sometimes somebody just randomly does something that wouldn't have been a big deal.
Yeah.
But considering the accumulation of all the stress that you've been through, you just,
Yes.
and then it's almost like this is a cause and effect. Is you're just going on a sporadic run. Is like a plague. So this leads me to this question. How do you know that, okay, it's time to do something, to call in mindfulness? Say call in, I know me like.
To practice.
Yeah, thank you.
So practicing mindfulness is not. It's a conscious effort that you make. So I remember that, maybe I've still got a bit of it now, but I remember a few years ago, or even months ago, I had this very irritable feeling that I get that causes my mind to become very anxious when something that I'm expecting doesn't happen the way that I want it to happen, even if it's no fault of mine. And I would literally, my mind would literally just clutter up. I can't think, and then I start to shake, and then I start breathing really, quickly. And I thought, no, this isn't normal. I shouldn't be going through this. So I always had to bring my mind to the state of calm down, calm down. It's not that serious. Everything will be fine. So when I found myself in that state of anxiety, I would literally have to tell myself, calm down, Feign, calm down, calm down. I didn't think it was a problem until I found out it was a problem. And I had to I literally took it to God. I had to pray about it. I was like, God, why am I always... So in Yoruba, there's a word they say is kora.
Are you Yoruba?
We'll get to that. So, woman kora, right? So I used to get very irritable. And, and I didn't like it. Because what's causing me to be irritable? Now, if I am irritable, that's fine. But how do I solve that problem?
Yeah.
Because it's the outcome evidently that I want to
Yes.
get rid of. I don't want to feel that way. And so I had to look at, okay, so this has happened. This is how I feel. What is the outcome? Nothing.
What's the outcome of the emotions
Of
that
the
comes
emotions,
with that
yes.
particular
So,
situation?
so I realized that, okay, so there's a problem here. What's the worst that could happen? Yeah, nothing. Okay, so you tried something out. I changed jobs. And then I found out that, oh my goodness, you know what? I shouldn't have changed jobs. I'm going back to my old job. Okay, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But you see, we're living in a society that is very judgmental. And even when nobody really cares,
You
it's the
are
truth.
already-
You know, you're already thinking, oh, what will people say? Right? So in the end, it's really about you and how you see yourself and what you're trying to achieve and not what other people are saying about you. So if I started a project and I failed at the project, okay, so I failed at the project. Either I start again or I do something else. And there's nothing wrong with it. But we judge ourselves so harshly that we feel that, oh, if I don't make it at this, then I am a failure. And that's not true. So you need to look at, where is it that I'm going with myself? Now, I don't want to be someone who's always irritable. So what do I need to do? I had to literally step back and say, okay, you need to learn to calm down. Calm down. Just telling myself calm down literally sorts out the entire emotion of being irritable. And over the months, I found that it's made me a lot less irritable because my being irritated solves nothing. I'm just working my emotions up for no apparent reason. Because someone else doesn't think there's a problem with it, but I think there's a
Yeah.
problem with it. So
Yeah.
why is it that I think there's a problem with it? So sometimes we need to have these conversations with ourselves and
Yeah.
say, okay, this is the type of person that I want to be. So how do I get there? Then you need to put down, literally, if you have to write it down, you write it down. So when I get irritated, what do I need to do? I need to tell myself to calm down. Everything is going to be okay. Even if things don't turn out the way that you want it to turn out, you go on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Right?
I like that you said go on to the next
You
thing.
go on to the next thing.
Yeah.
It's really not a big deal. Honestly, life, I don't want to say life is not a big deal, but many of the things that we think are issues are really not issues. And most of them really can be overcome. The challenges, they
Yeah.
can be overcome. We just need to be willing to say that, okay, well, it didn't work out, so what's the next thing? We must always have that at the back of our minds. When we fail at something, when something goes awry, then we should say, okay, so what's the next step? I never dwell on any issue.
Yeah.
I never dwell on it for too long. If it's happened, it's happened. I'm always thinking, so what next? Because then that it spurs my mind to begin to think of
The way out.
the way out or of something else. But in moving on to something else, you also have to make sure that you've shut that door and there's closure. Otherwise, you're just piling up a lot of
Thank
unfinished
you. Yeah.
stuff.
Which then comes on you like.
And then probably
it will
that's
always come.
yes. So you have to make sure that, okay, there's closure. I'm done with this. I'm fine with it. So what next? And then you can move on. And in doing, you mentioned something about how do you then find peace, even with the chaos, right? What again, you have to find out what works for you. So if I say that I could literally sit in my room and just breathe, it might not work for you because you're thinking breathing. Although I do honestly recommend breathing. Just calm down and just breathe. You'll be fine. At least let's get the emotions out of the way.
First.
So you really, I think a lot of people are not introspective. They're not
Yeah.
very self-aware. And the only way that you can know who you are is if you think about who you are in a very honest way. So I had to tell myself, I remember there was once my my daughter said to me, she said, "Mommy, you have ADHD." I said, "God forbid, I don't have ADHD. It's not my passion." Typical mother response.
Yeah.
But I had to sit down and literally read up on what ADHD was. So it's not, there's nothing wrong with you.
Yeah.
It just means that
You just need to be more
attention
conscious.
deficit. And it's true. So I could literally be having a conversation. I'm surprised I've spoken for this long and my mind didn't go somewhere else. I could literally be talking to you about something,
And
or
then-
I'm thinking something in my head and I would say to you the rest of my thoughts. And you're thinking, what are you
Where
talking
did we come
about?
from?
I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. So you see, I was thinking this. Now, I didn't think it was an issue. I just thought, oh, it was my peculiarity, but it's not cute, in quotes. So I had to identify with that and say to myself, okay, this is actually a challenge. So I need to solve this problem. So how am I going to solve it? And then I began to say, you know what, you need to practice
Can we pause a
being
bit?
mindful.
Can you go back to that beginning where you said, first, number one, I identified it.
Yes.
Then you decided that you need to
Solve.
please. After I do you get what I'm going? Because I see a lot of people that please, you're going to go back to where you're coming from. Were you able to hold that thought?
Let's flow.
I like the fact that you're able to say first you identified it, then you decided that this is something that I want to solve. Because a lot of people just end there. You say, okay, I noticed that I have it, and then it now becomes a justifying point. Like,
Exactly. And then they leave it that way.
Because I have ADHD.
Yes.
It's 'cause
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the journey to solving it. That's where you were going.
Yeah, so you have to find, again, it goes back to what works for you. I find that some people like to journal.
Yeah, that's a very good tool.
It's very good. I only started journaling this year. Well, maybe a few weeks ago, since the year just started. Because that in itself is a mindful act. You've got to be able to sit still
Get your pen.
and get your pen and then begin to write what's on your mind. But I found that in writing what's on my mind, very honestly, because it's my journal, so I can write whatever I want in it, I find that as I'm writing, sometimes I get answers.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm writing down my fears, and then I
Immediately,
end up saying, oh, but you know what? Even though this and this and this is happening,
Yeah.
I know everything's going to be fine.
Yeah, that's one big advantage of writing.
Yes.
It arranges your thoughts.
It does.
Yeah, it's
It
like
does.
counseling too. Although counseling, the idea sometimes in therapy, like you literally don't have to be told anything. Just by speaking and laying it all out, you can see, oh, okay, this is what fits into this that would
Yes.
create the solution to this. And,
Yes.
okay, this was perfect.
Yes.
Okay, this comes together. This comes together.
Yes.
So that's the same thing with writing. It just organizes your mind, and then you now say,
Absolutely.
oh, and what looks
Yes.
like a then becomes very simple.
Very small.
Yeah.
So, solving the problem. This is the problem that I have. How am I going to solve it? So, talking to myself when I faced with that situation, like I said earlier, telling myself, you need to calm down. Everything will be over soon. It's not that deep. Right? Especially, you see this, it's not that deep. It's such a good phrase, because really nothing is
Calm down,
that
calm
deep.
down.
Just calm down. You'll be
Or
fine. It's not-
it has happened. It has
it's-
happened.
yeah, it's-
What next?
Exactly, what next? So because saying what next then helps you to come up with the solution. Right? But if you say, oh, this problem is here, what do I do? And you don't say, what do I do next? It's just going to be hanging in the air.
Yeah,
And you
and
keep
it's
carrying
weights.
it around like a placard.
It's weights.
So you can't let what's happened in your past to determine your present state or your future. So you've got to let what happened in the past stay in the past and then figure out, where do I go from here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good. So good. Do you want to break down mindfulness or meditation for us, like in a practical sense? Take for instance, or let me leave it to you. Describe. Now, I want it to be very descriptive because I see people. I hear people talk about, oh, I'm trying to be mindful, or I'm trying to meditate, but there's just a lot of things. There's just this. There's just that. Yeah, and it's almost like it's these mysterious things that very organized people do.
Oh, so I've only started practicing mindfulness through meditation.
Okay.
Because in the past I've tried meditating, but there's just always so much going on. So I could literally start saying to myself, okay, do you know what? I want to meditate on Psalm 23.
Okay.
The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. Did I put the stew back in the freezer? Oh my God. That stew is going to spoil. I need to come back. Okay. God, I'm sorry. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. It happens to all of us. It really does. So it takes practice. Just the same way you're learning how to play the piano, or you're learning how to play a new type of sport. It takes practice. You know, in Malcolm Gladwell's book, Outliers, he outlined that it takes 10,000 hours for you to become a master in anything. 10,000 hours. That's a lot of hours, right?
How many days is that?
And so I don't even know, but it's true. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. It's the same way with reading your Bible. I'm not talking about studying, just reading your Bible. Just set aside a time, if you can, every day, or just make a mental note. I have to read my Bible today. Whether I'm reading Isaiah or I'm reading Leviticus, I've got to read it because it's part of my lifestyle, right? It's just like brushing your teeth every day. You don't forget to brush. Well, I hope you don't forget to brush your teeth, but it should become a lifestyle. And so when you want to start to add meditation as part of your lifestyle, you have to be patient with yourself because it's not going to happen in a day. It won't happen in 2 days. It won't even happen in a month. Well, it might, but I'm just trying to say that it's going to take time. But the most important thing is, again, your desire. I want to be a more mindful person. And one thing that would help me to be more mindful is the art of meditation or the art of consistency in doing a particular thing, maybe at a particular time. So, because you also have to think about, what is the outcome? What am I trying to achieve here? Because if you don't have an outcome, then you're probably never going to, you know. So I could tell myself, like I do every day, oh, when I get to 70, I want to be a fit mama. I don't want to be bent over. I don't want. So if that is the outcome, what must I start doing today? I have to start exercising. Now, if I don't exercise, that means my why is not strong enough. Right? So you always have to think of the outcome. So why do I want to meditate? So a lot of people, we just follow trends without thinking about what we're trying to achieve. And that, for me, is your why is the strongest factor in any change of or any introduction of a habit that you want in your life. Meditation is a key factor in life if you want to be a mindful person, if you want to be someone who's thoughtful about others as well, because you when you find yourself being in a state of togetherness, you're not just thinking about yourself. You're
Yeah.
also thinking about the other
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
Because if you are cluttered, what you bring out is clutter. And it's going to affect everybody, other person around you. So I remember that my kids would tell me, "Oh, mommy, you shout too much." I'm like, "Yeah, well, if you guys got your act together, I probably wouldn't be shouting." But it affected their mentality. So I had to think about how my state of mind or my actions were affecting them. So it's no longer about just you, it's also about your environment. And that's why it's important for you to find unity on the inside of you, because it also affects everything else
Environment.
that's
Yeah.
around you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like that you did that, because I just realized that um, we are talking about mindfulness, but we didn't exactly define mindfulness in itself and the benefits of it. And like you just said, one of the benefits is that it brings you to a place of consciousness to what you are as an individual, but beyond you, your environment, how you affect your environment, how your environment affects you, how, like, yeah, right? The level of productivity, the possibilities within yourself. You know, it's possible to live life on the surface of, okay, this is where I am and this is who I am right now. But I think without a level of mindfulness, some things will go unnoticed, right? So would you. I think that's what makes the difference between people that start a job and stay on a job and stay on a job and stay on a job, and the people that grow sporadically, and in no time become the masters of their industry, and in no time are opening other, um, breaking out into other branches. This is not even about maybe the field of work. You can be a carpenter and then end up being a
Yes.
carpenter that who owns, like, that has shops in multiple spaces and
Yes.
all. I think that's the beauty of delving deep into yourself and saying, beyond the now, what is that thing that I can push myself into? Because life in itself is, if you want to be busy doing nothing, you'll be very busy doing nothing. It would give you the maximum amount of distractions. You would comfortably consider yourself as being productive, but realize that you are literally static, right? And without that consciousness of saying that, okay, I first off understand where I am right now, understand, and in understanding where I am right now, understanding the good of where I am right now, understanding the bad of where I am right now, like being comfortable with understanding and admitting the negatives of where I am right
Yes.
now.
Yes.
Then deciding, okay, so what next, right? The what next question. How can I change this? How can I make this better? Become the best at where you are. Oh, okay, so yeah, I'm done with this level. How do we get to the next place? And how do I get to the next place? And how do I get to the next place? And how is my life affecting those around me? Oh, my colleagues at work. They're saying the work is a toxic place. What are you contributing to that toxic space?
Absolutely.
What are you contributing to your boss space, to the life of your boss? You hear about how, oh, this person is so weird and so odd and so, blah blah blah. What is your contribution to it? Can you make it better? I think that is just the superpower of greatness.
Yes.
You see any great person, just know this person is mindful. Because how exactly in the world would you? I heard of what Elon Musk did recently. The way they were able to, I think Pimo talked about it in the class yesterday. The advanced technology with space shifting and all of that, and even let's go back to the basics rather. The invention of chariots in itself. Oh, this horse is moving. How can I tack something along with
Yeah.
this horse that will make it carry this load for
Yes,
me?
yes.
Is somebody deciding that I can't? There's something more here.
Yes.
There is something more here. How is someone able to think of making a car? there is something more here. I heard that there were cars already before there were boxes that have tires under. So somebody that was just like, wait, why am I dragging this thing? This car can move. Let me put a tire under it.
Yeah.
Right? That's the beauty of mindfulness. It's mindfulness that makes the difference between generations and generations and generations and technological advancements and
Yes.
everything that the world holds.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, why should I be mindful? You should be mindful because they are great. You should be mindful because we are created for more.
Yes.
You should be mindful because in our DNA, in our origination, in the essence of our existence is the capacity to go beyond. And with going beyond is the gateway to an amazing world. It's the gateway to an amazing life. It's what makes the difference between walking miles to go see somebody and then taking a bus and now taking a plane.
Yeah.
Like, mindfulness. I know when you talked about when you're practicing meditation, and then you talked about how, oh, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, and then Mom, that's still, I know. I immediately remember the theory about, still brings me down to, I love Jordan Peterson. I love him. I make a lot of reference to him. So it brings me down to the same theory. That's still the arrange your room thing. You know, I think people get so hard on themselves, and in a bit to want to meditate or want to be mindful, you decide that, okay, this is what I want to focus on. But the thing is that if you are not someone that is as enough practice in mindfulness, in being focused, deciding out of the blues that you just want to focus on a chapter is literally going to be impossible for you. And what I try to do with my clients and generally is, okay, let's first start with debunking what's on your mind. Because, truth be told, if there are things on your mind, you can't bring something else and say you want to they would invade. They would invade.
Yeah.
So what exactly is on your mind? What is on your mind? What is on your mind? Okay, we pick each of them. Oh, so why is this a big deal? What's the problem here? Then we realize that, okay, so what next? Oh, don't worry. It's not really a big deal. We've debunked that. You go to the next one. Oh, okay, so regarding this, maybe you put a call through to somebody after this session. Oh, okay, we've been able to clear that out. Okay, so the next one, and then you realize that now there is room.
Yes.
And you've been able to, so it's almost like, are we saying that those things won't patch in later on? No, they will. But when they patch in, you already know the final destination to them. You've already been able to decide that, oh, it's not a big deal. Or you've been able to decide that, okay, I'll put a call through. Or you've been able to decide that, okay, I will stop eating as much as I do. You've been able to pin a hold on each of those things. So when they come, instead of them taking you all the way, you can just, okay, this is where you are. I'm coming back. Yeah. All right, I shall not want. You make me lie down. Oh, my bed is scattered. Okay, I'll tell this person to help me. Come back.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. You have to always bring yourself back. Bring yourself back, and not dwell on that, because it's not a challenge. It's something that can actually be sorted out much later. But right now, I just want to be focused on what I need to be focused on. So it's, again, like we both agree, it's practice. Yeah. It's just practice. Some people actually have a notebook and a pad, so that and a pen. So when the thought comes, they're like, okay, mental note, I need to write this down now. Okay, I need to do this. So when the thought, okay, sorted that out. And then you go back to it. If it comes again, but I think after a while, you get used to knowing how to just focus and keep your mind on what you need to keep it on.
How are you able to balance everything? This is me. This is me being funny and bringing in that. You know that thing that you said about ADHD? This could be it. Because I just thought of, okay, we just talked about mindfulness and being calm and managing everything. Then I immediately remembered all the things that you said you do. And then being a mother, I think motherhood is work on its own.
Yes.
Right? And then your practice of mindfulness and all. How are you able to be multiversatile and still be mindful and still be calm and still have this, or at least the consciousness to be?
Um, again, that phrase is not that.
Let me attach something to
Okay.
that. Because one thing that is beautiful about people that tend to easily get tagged with ADHD is that they are just naturally multiversatile. Like you see somebody that they are saying, oh, you have ADHD, you have ADHD. I think beyond just seeing that, okay, you're unable to pay attention, another thing to see is that you are blessed with the skill of doing a lot. Like you are blessed with the ability to impact a lot. Some people are focused on one thing because without that thing, there's nothing else.
Yes.
But it's like, regardless of where you find yourself, there's something to do here. There's something to do there. There's something to do here. There's something to do there. And they're usually like the most boundless thinkers. You see anybody that is able to think far and wide, just know. Because with orderliness comes restrictions. And when you see somebody that is like you have no stay, it's like,
I can't stay here.
yeah. So and one thing that I know is a conscious or a constant issue with them is being able to maximize productivity on these multiple frames of work, right? So for you are doing quite a number of things. How are you able to balance it?
Well, first of all, I work from home, so that's a
Okay.
plus, right?
Alright.
I don't want anyone to think that because I probably have a 9 to 5. I don't have a 9 to 5, so I'm able to juggle as many things that I want, you know, in a week or in a day. I'm able to arrange what it is that I need to do. For example, when I was coming out here, I knew that this is probably the only thing that I'm going to do today. And because I don't have anything lined up, I was like, Tuesday is fine. So I also want to, first of all, state that God has given everyone a number of gifts, or He's given you a gift. And one of the reasons I absolutely love the story of the talents, because it speaks to what I'm about to say now. Now, one person might have the gift of speaking, and that is their gift. And they're able to build that gift so that they are someone who is useful in the society, and they get paid for it, right? Now, that is their gift. Imagine someone who's been given that gift and he doesn't improve on that skill. You will die with that gift, not knowing that you could have been the next Vosi Tembekwayo, going around and getting paid thousands of dollars for 1 hour.
Oh my God.
$100,000 or something
I'm
like
coming
that.
after him.
Amen.
I'm aiming. That's my goal.
Right?
Boom, boom.
And you keep it there because you don't see the possibility. You don't see that this is a gift that God has given you to bless others. As opposed to another person who's been given 5 gifts, and they're able to improve on each of those gifts and just multiply them. Now, people are different. So the one who has 1 gift shouldn't look at the one who has got 5 gifts and say, oh, this person is doing so much. I'm so jealous of what this person is doing. But that's not what God has given you. God has given you 1, so why don't you focus on that 1? Now, I'm someone who God has blessed, amen, with, lots of gifts. And my duty is to ensure that each gift that God gives me, I'm able to improve on it. I'm able to enhance the skill and use it for humanity. And so I must be very mindful that, first of all, I cannot do all the gifts at the same time. Right? I know I have a gift, but there's a timing for each gift. So each of these gifts that you're given, there's a season for it. Once upon a time, I was a teacher. And that was all that I was doing. And I thought, yay, I got this teaching thing in the bag, all right? And then all of a sudden, I found myself working in sales and marketing.
Okay.
So it's the same gift, speaking, but then there's a skill
Different
of
expression.
being able to convince somebody to buy something or putting out a product so that people can see it. So there was a season in my life that was what I was doing. And then I moved from doing that to doing voiceovers. Somehow I found myself doing
Interesting.
voiceovers.
I didn't know
It's the
voice
same
cannot just be
gift,
like-
but a different expression.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm not going to say, well, because I used to be a teacher, that's the only thing that I should be doing. No. There's so many expressions of that same gift. I used to write for a blog at one time.
Interesting.
I think writing is probably one of my laziest gifts. I've been writing a book now for, I think, 6 years.
Amazing.
I stopped at chapter 10 and then that was it. My mind just, went blank. But I keep telling myself, you need to finish it. But you know what I tell myself? I said, no, Lord, if you take me to Dubai, the inspiration will come so that I can finish the book up. Lord, that's what needs to happen, right? But that's just me being very lazy. So we've all got gifts, but we can't do them at the same time. But it's our duty to improve on that skill so that when the opportunity comes, you're ready for it. So a lot of us have these gifts and we literally don't do anything with the gifts. I remember when I signed up for a German class, and it's one of the most difficult things I've ever done in my life, learning German. And I did it for 6 months. I was unable to continue because they had shifted the time from evening class, which was convenient, to an afternoon class. So it was interfering with my 9 to 5 at that time. But an opportunity came for me to teach a young boy from Oman German because he was having trouble learning German as well. And the father said, no, you have to teach my son how to speak German because his exam is coming up, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, hey, God, I beg. Make I no fail this one, But because it was a beginner's class, I was able to teach him. It was basic German. And when he had done the exam, and his father had sent me the message that all the results were out, and thank you so much, my son got an A. Now, I've never had to use German after that result or after that period. So in my mind, I'd looked at it that, okay, maybe God wanted me to learn German just for this boy, right? And that's just it. I've never wanted to. I can still say a few phrases, but the desire to learn German is dead, like it's gone. I'm like, no, Lord, I need to improve on this skill. Who knows? I might be going to Germany very soon, and I might, But the point I'm trying to make is that there's always a season for your gift. So don't ever think that, I don't need to use this. I'm going here. The fact that you're going to a particular destination doesn't mean that you should drop every other thing along the way, because there's no knowledge that is wasted. There is absolutely no knowledge at all. It doesn't matter if you learned how to sew on a button on your shirt, right? A time would come, maybe one day that, oh my goodness, the button on my shirt is off.
popped.
At least you're able to put it back without having to look for a tailor, So everything that we learn is for a reason and for a season.
So be mindful.
So be mindful.
So be mindful.
Yes.
Be mindful. So good. So good. Is there anything you'd like to touch on? On the top of your head?
Maybe like a final thought, right? I would really love to see more people doing more than they think they can. So we walk around with limiting beliefs or negative thoughts that I'm not able to do this. I would really like to see more people dispel that thought. It's not true. The human mind is capable of doing almost anything. And I think
Just have
that's
to
one of the
decide.
greatest gifts that God has given man. We are creative just like he is. We are imaginative just like he is. So we need to bring ourselves back to having the mind of a child. You know, children, they're so imaginative, but somehow as we grow older, we forget that we can be free and we can do really whatever it is that we put our minds to. And so I would really love to see more people, especially young people, even old people, really, to see that it doesn't matter if you're 60, you're 70, you can still do these things. Because I find myself pushing to do things that I never thought that I would be able to do. And I think I absolutely love it. And that's one of the things I love about my life is that I literally say, do you know what? I'm going on a road trip by myself.
Okay.
Yes, I do solo trips a lot. I'm going to Lomé or I'm going to Cote d'Ivoire. And I was just, okay, when do you want to go? Plan it and then off. Because life is about experiences. What is the use of living life if you don't experience anything? And I could go on and on and on. But the most important thing is don't limit yourself. Just go ahead and do whatever it is that you want to do. As long as you're not hurting anybody, then it's fine. Yes.
Like when you're speaking, I remember this rhyme I stumbled on social media. I can do anything I put my mind to.
Mm.
I can do anything I
Mm-hmm.
put my mind to.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so true.
Mm-hmm.
It's so true. Like I I remember different instances in life when you know how humanity is wonderful. You know how we can just be like we can be quick judges of ourselves
Mm-hmm.
and say me, this, never.
Yeah.
But the thing is that you've not experienced an experience that will make that thing something you want to do. And until you get to that point where you say, I want this, and then you go for it, then and only then would you realize that there is more to you. That you could literally be the best in that thing. There was a time when I'm like, social media, me? Nah. Me? But I got to a point in life where everything else stopped. And then the only thing I was asked to face was social media. And initially, I won't lie, initially I started with designing and crying. Editing a video and crying. Or making some post that just goes chaotic. And I'm just like, God, what am I doing here? And then now, I'm this person that sees the beauty of the space and sees the beauty of the company, the informations, because I just felt like this is a marketplace. A lot of things are going on here. Through lies, naysays. Like, it just felt like, nah, you're wild. Like, I don't want to be here. That was my opinion. But now I see how much influence it has on the minds of people. We talk about mindfulness, we talk about culture and all, but these are the tiny things that make the definition of life to some people. You know, mindfulness is a conscious journey. There is an unconscious conditioning that goes on in our world.
Yes.
And I think until we get to a point where we see that if we are not consciously, mindfully doing certain things, we are unconsciously doing other things.
Yes.
Like the world just naturally pushes things into your space and
Yes.
gives you to do's and gives you
Yes.
like you would just find yourself becoming. Let me leave it like that, because your becoming depends on what is in your environment.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And the only way you can fight against your environment is when you're mindful. It's like we are made for so much more. It's a battle. This is not an attempt to debunk the struggle that people go through when they're trying to be mindful. Because it's mindfulness that helps you transition from being an addict to not. It's mindfulness that helps you transition from being what? Even grieving and being healed
Yes.
is a journey from mindfulness to not,
Yes.
like from that state of emotion
Yes.
to mindfulness.
Yes.
It's mindfulness, and it's a lot. It spans through a long time. Like it's not a 1 week, 1 month,
Sometimes it takes
6 months, depending on the journey.
Yes.
It's a lot, but it is worth it. Like it is worth it. Is capital letter, like capital bold letter with the boldest font.
Yes.
It's really worth it. It's really worth it. It's really worth it. It's magical to be able to look at yourself and see more to yourself than you are in the present. It's even more magical for you to be able to look at those around you and see the best in them, even when they are less of themselves. And the most beautiful part is when you now decide that, okay, I'm just going to give my own token. I'm just going to play my
Yes.
part, my tiny part, and help you get there.
Yes.
We talk about our world being whatever it is. We talk about Nigeria. We talk about Lagos State. But really, I believe that it all starts from you and I and everyone in their little corners, giving their little token with a huge dose of mindfulness to making the world a better place. Thank you, Feign.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you. I'm grateful. You're such an amazing person. And I am also now a member of the Lazy Readers Club. It's a big thing for me. I don't think you understand how big it is for me, because I've always been a lazy reader. I can seem very studious and all to people. Like people always like, you're always reading books, you're always studying, you're always, but it's because it's audio. It's because it's video. And people may say, well, that's what works for you. Know what works for you and work with it. But the truth is that beyond what works for us, there's a level of depth that you have not touched. The same way we're just talking about mindfulness and saying, oh, there's a possibility beyond what you've accommodated as your possibility. What I realized with reading is that, with reading hard copy, is that it brings each sentences to home. Like it's possible to listen and then for a split second your mind just goes to, oh, I have to pick that, and you've missed something. But when it's a book and it's in front of your eyes, okay, it's mindful. When I was about to say he's mindful, I didn't realize that, okay, truthfully, there are times when our mind still wanders and then we see that our eyes has been going through the pages, but our mind is not taking notes. But I guess that the mindfulness comes in again where you now say, oh no, I don't recall. And take yourself back and run through it again. But maybe before taking yourself back, first attend to that thing that your mind went to.
Yeah.
So that when you go back, your mind is clean enough
Yeah.
to stay there. This is a good conversation.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Can I give you a hug?
Yes, you can. Thank you.
All right, guys. Bye-bye.